Hello, everyone. As you can tell, I am not there today. Um, just honestly, my husband woke up not feeling well on Monday, so he went and got tested for COVID. And because he did, I can't come back until he gets a negative. So I went and got tested myself just because, we live in the same house. I do think we're both going to be okay. I think we both have some kind of just a mild cold or maybe even a mild flu, but it's nothing that neither of us can't handle. So I do in my heart believe that we're going to be okay. But nevertheless, we have a story to read today and some questions. So, based on the fact that we're going to be starting the Hunger Games, excuse me, you're going to hear that probably a lot throughout this. I apologize. Um, I thought we would stick with the theme of reading a story that takes place in a dystopian society, and that's actually one of my favorite settings or moods of a story is a dystopian society. What is a dystopian society, you may ask? Well, if you remember last year with Miss Burt, you read Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, which also takes place in a dystopian society. And here is a definition: it is a fictional society that imposes a harmful, oppressive, and miserable existence upon its members. It's the opposite of a utopian society where fictional ideal society couldn't be more perfect. So if you lived in a utopia, you'd be living in paradise, right? Dystopian society is the exact opposite. Like, you're oppressed, you have no choices, you don't get to have any freedoms, any rights, any decisions. Everything's made for you. Um, and that's the same if you remember back again in Fahrenheit 451. Um, they burned all the books. They weren't allowed to read any books. You were only allowed to watch TV, which I know sounds great, but if somebody told you you couldn't read a book, I guarantee you'd want to read a book. You know what I mean? And the whole reason that they didn't want them to read a book was because they didn't want them to learn and have thoughts of this being oppressive and then have an uprising. Very, very similar theme to what the Hunger Games is going to be like. And so I really do think you guys will like that story. However, let's talk about the author for just a second. Ray Bradbury, who wrote Fahrenheit 451, his stories tend to blend dark realism with little hints of hope. So, like as the reader, you're reading this and you're trying to. I always put myself in the position in the story of being that main character in the story, and it's so dark and so sad and everything. But there's that little glimmer of hope that's always just hinted upon in these stories. Um, so what I'm going to do to you today, do for you today, not to you because I'm here and you're there. I am going to read the Pedestrian, and then it's going to be, once I get this finished, it's going to be put in an Edpuzzle format, and you will listen along. It's going to stop and ask you a question. Just so you know, with those edu puzzles, here's the thing I love about them. I can tell whether or not you've watched the video and how long you've watched the video for, and whether or not you've answered each question. So, something that you might not like about it is I can see how long you've watched the video, whether or not you've even watched the video, and how many of the questions you've answered. You get what I'm saying? So, there's no fooling on this one. Like, I can tell if you're in there for 5 seconds and you have all the questions answered, which you can't because I always put you can't skip on it, but you're going to have to answer all the questions in order to get your points. So, it's not a threat. It is just the way of the edu puzzle. Oh, all right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start reading, um, and I might put in a little, just a little discussion here and there. But I've attached this in, yours would look like this. So feel free to read along. You can take your little pen. I love it when you guys mark up the text. So I know that one of the things that I'm going to ask you is, now I can't get it to move. Oops. There. One of the things okay, so let's just say I was going to ask you to identify cloverleaf intersection, which I'm not going to. You can go back into the test. You can circle it. You can highlight it, whatever you want to do to make it easier for you. Okay. Um, that was a bad example, but anyhow, so this is how yours is going to look. So if you would please follow along as I read, um, and then I will get to what your questions are, and then we will be done. Okay, this is going to be, because this is a little longer, I'm allowing you both Wednesday and Thursday to complete this, and Friday I'll be giving you a reading probe, which I need you to complete, but I'll talk to you more about that on Friday. So this is like a 2-day lesson. So if you need to take a break, you can take a break. It's fine. But if you would please listen along, I would appreciate it. And I apologize ahead of time for my voice, because I don't know what's wrong with it. It's just scratchy. But anyways, the pedestrian. To enter out into that silence was the city at 8 o'clock at night of a misty evening in November. To put your feet up upon that buckling concrete wall, to step over grassy seams and make your way, hands in pockets, through the silences, that was what Mr. Leonard Mead most dearly loved to do. He would stand upon the corner of an intersection and peer down long moonlit avenues of sidewalk in 4 directions, deciding which way to go. But it really made no difference. He was alone in this world of AD 2053, or as good as alone, and with a final decision made, a path selected, he would stride off, sending patterns of frosty air before him like the smoke of a cigar. Sometimes he would walk for hours and miles and return only at midnight to his house. And on his way, he would see the cottages and homes with their dark windows, and it was not unequal to walking through a graveyard where only the faintest glimmers of firefly light appeared in flickers behind the windows. Sudden gray phantoms seemed to manifest upon inner room walls where a curtain was still undrawn against the night, or there were whisperings and murmurs where a window in a tomb like building was still open. Mr. Leonard Mead would pause, cock his head, listen, and march on, his feet making no noise on the lumpy walk. For long ago he had wisely changed to sneakers when strolling at night, because the dogs in intermittent squads would parallel his journey with barkings if he wore hard heels, and lights might click on and faces appear, and an entire street be startled by the passing of a lone figure, himself, in the early November evening. On this particular evening he began his journey in a westerly direction, toward the hidden sea. There was a good crystal frost in the air. It cut the nose and made the lungs blaze like a Christmas tree inside you. We know this, like a Christmas tree inside you, is a simile. Very good. All right. You could feel the cold light going on and off, all the branches filled with invisible snow. He listened to the faint push of his soft shoes through autumn leaves with a satisfaction, and whistled a cold, quiet whistle between his teeth, occasionally picking up a leaf as he passed, examining its skeletal pattern in the infrequent lamplights as he went on, smelling its rusty smell. "Hello there," he whispered to every house on every side as he moved. "What's up tonight on Channel 4? Channel 7? Channel 9? Where are the cowboys rushing? And do I see the United States cavalry over the hill to the rescue?" The street was silent and long and empty, with only his shadow moving like the shadow of a hawk in mid country. If he closed his eyes and stood very still, frozen, he could imagine himself upon the center of a plain, a wintry, windless American desert, with no house in 1,000 miles, and only dry riverbeds for the streets for company. "What is it now?" he asked the houses, noticing his wristwatch. 8:30 p.m.? Time for a dozen assorted murders? A quiz? A review? A comedian falling off the stage? And a review is a musical show with skits, just in case you wanted to know. What was that, a murmur of laughter from within a moon-white house? He hesitated, but went on, when nothing more happened. He stumbled over a particularly uneven section of sidewalk. The cement was vanishing under flowers and grass. I'm going to highlight that because that's important. The cement was vanishing under flowers and grass. In 10 years of walking by night or day for thousands of miles, he had never met another person walking, not once in all that time. He came to a cloverleaf intersection which stood silent where two main highways crossed the town. During the day, it was a thunderous surge of cars, the gas stations open, a great insect rustling, and the ceaseless jockeying for position as the scarab beetles, a faint incense puttering from their exhausts, skimmed homeward to the far directions. And these scarab beetles, he's just using that as a term to um, identify cars and trucks. It's what's people driving in their cars. But now these highways, too, were like streams in a dry season, all stone and bed and moon radiance. He turned back on a side street, circling around toward his home. He was within a block of his destination when the lone car turned a corner quite suddenly and flashed, I'm so sorry, a fierce white cone of light upon him. He stood entranced, not unlike a night moth, stunned by the illumination, and then drawn toward it. A metallic voice called to him. Stand still. Stay where you are. Don't move. He halted. Put up your hands. But, he said, your hands up or we'll shoot. The police, of course. But what a rare, incredible thing. In a city of 3 million, there was only one police car left. Wasn't that correct? Ever since a year ago, 2052, the election year, the force had been cut down from 3 cars to 1. Crime was ebbing. There was no need now for the police, save this one lone car wandering and wandering the empty streets. Your name, the police car said in a metallic whisper. He couldn't see the men in it for the bright lights in his eyes. Leonard Mead, he said. Speak up. Leonard Mead. Business or profession? I guess you'd call me a writer. No profession, said the police car, as if talking to itself. The light held him fixed, like a museum specimen, needle thrust through chest. You might say that, Mr. Mead said. He hadn't written in years. Magazines and books didn't sell anymore. Everything went on in the tomb-like houses at night now, he thought, continuing his fancy. The tombs, ill-lit by television light, where the people sat like the dead, the gray or multicolored lights touching their faces, but never really touching them. No profession, the phonograph voice hissing. What are you doing out? Walking, said Leonard Mead. Walking! Just walking, he said simply, but his face felt cold. Walking, just walking. Walking? Yes, sir. Walking where? For what? Walking for air. Walking to see. Your address. 11 South St. James Street. And there is air in your house. You have an air conditioner, Mr. Mead? Yes. And you have a viewing screen in your house to see with. He's asking if he has a television in his house. No. No! There was a cracking quiet that in itself was an accusation. Are you married, Mr. Mead? No. Not married, said the police voice behind the fiery beam. The moon was high and clear among the stars, and the houses were gray and silent. Nobody wanted me, said Leonard Mead with a smile. Do not speak unless you're spoken to. Leonard Mead waited in the cold night. Just walking, Mr. Mead? Yes. But you haven't explained for what purpose. I explained. For air and to see and just to walk. Have you done this often? Every night for years. The police car sat in the center of the street with its radio throat faintly humming. Well, Mr. Mead, it said. Is that all? He asked politely. Oh, man, sorry. Yes, said the voice. Here. There was a sigh, a pop. The back door of the police car sprang wide. Get in. Wait a minute, I haven't done anything. Get in. I protest, Mr. Meade. He walked like a man suddenly drunk. As he passed the front window of the car, he looked in. As he expected, there was no one in the front seat. No one in the car at all. Get in. He put his hand to the door and peered into the back seat, which was a little cell, a little black jail with bars. It smelled of riveted steel. It smelled of harsh antiseptic. It smelled too clean and hard and metallic. There was nothing soft there. Now, if you had a wife to give an alibi, the iron voice said, but where are you taking me? The car hesitated, or rather gave a faint whirring click, as if information somewhere was dropping card by punch slotted card under electric eyes to the Psychiatric Center for Research on Regressive Tendencies. Regressive tendencies. I'm highlighting these because you're going to be having questions about these. We'll make that one yellow. He got in. The door shut with a soft thud. The police car rolled through the night avenues, flashing its dim lights ahead. They passed one house on one street a moment later. One house in an entire city of houses that were dark. But this one particular house had all of its electric lights brightly lit. Every window a loud yellow illumination, square and warm in the cool darkness. That's my house, said Leonard Meade. No one answered him. The car moved down the empty riverbed streets and off away, leaving the empty streets with the empty sidewalks, and no sound and no motion all the rest of the chill November night. All right. So I am going to complete this in an Edupuzzle, and you will have a very short question to answer along with your other ones. I will be home. Oh man, I'm going to bring you guys Pop-Tarts for having to listen to me cough this whole time. I'm really sorry. Maybe Pizza Hut. No, but he like Pizza Pockets. That's it. Not Pizza Hut. I can't bring you Pizza Hut. That's ridiculous. But anyway, so please answer all the questions. I will be home all day tomorrow. So if you have any questions or if something's malfunctioning or you can't get it to work, email me, text me, whatever you need to do, and we will figure it out. All right. I am very hopeful I will see you guys on Monday. Take care. I'll post a reading prompt for you for Friday, and I will see you soon. All right. Be good. Bye.